In this week's episode of the Red and Gold Report, we're going to be talking about the Chiefs' blowout victory against the Steelers on Sunday night that advanced us to the second round of the playoffs, and we're going to be updating you on all the recent Chiefs news. So, what was the storyline of the game? Well, it was kind of like, remember when you were a kid and you forgot about the science fair, so your mom threw that volcano experiment into your backpack? Yeah, so with everybody watching, you threw in some vinegar, some baking soda, some red food dye, but nothing happened. And you waited, and you got nervous, and you waited, and then the whole thing exploded red and you couldn't get it to stop. Yeah, that was the game on Sunday night. At first, we waited. And we waited. And then the game exploded for our boys in red, and the Steelers just couldn't get it to stop. The game started with waiting. The first quarter was like the offenses had decided to play hot potato, like nobody wanted to keep the ball. Eight punts started the game, which, hey, at least the punters were able to stay warm and CBS got some ad revenue. Then the Chiefs coaches decided to make life even more difficult by having a wide receiver hand the ball off with a Steelers defensive touchdown scored on the inevitable fumble. It was the second quarter, and just like that volcano experiment, the Chiefs fans, well, we were waiting and we were getting a little nervous. And then the team in red exploded, and the Steelers, well, they just couldn't get it to stop. After starting the game with 5 straight turnovers or punts, the Chiefs offense scored touchdowns on their next 6 drives, 6 straight touchdowns. Mahomes led drive after drive with deep throws, explosive runs, and a number of receivers getting in on the action. They just plain exploded. You had Kelsey throwing a touchdown, an offensive lineman catching a touchdown, a shovel pass for a touchdown. It was like they were just making up new fun ways to score touchdowns out there. And ultimately, the game ended in a 42-21 blowout victory by the Chiefs. So the storyline of the game, yeah, it was like that volcano science fair experiment growing up. A little bit of waiting, a little bit of getting nervous, and then it just exploded. And hey, real quick as we get going, if you want your weekly Chiefs news brought to you by a guy whose midriff is growing about at the same rate as Ben Roethlisberger's, then make sure that you subscribe to the Red and Gold Report on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. So who was the MVP of the game? Well, it's got to be Patrick Mahomes, right? Mahomes ended the game with 5 touchdowns, over 400 yards of passing, some great first down runs, a 77% completion percentage. Even though he was under some pressure, he adapted by going to his classic off-platform passes and by spreading the ball around to a number of receivers. Mahomes was 4 for 7 with 2 big time throws, even when the offense broke down and he was playing outside of that offensive structure. And he was 24 for 26 with 3 touchdowns. That's incredible when throwing from a clean pocket where he was back to his old deep throw self. Who else played well on Sunday night? Of course, there's plenty of praise to go around in a blowout win. Let's start with the offense and third string running back Jerick McKinnon. McKinnon went off with 81 yards receiving, 61 yards of rushing, leading the team with 142 yards from the line of scrimmage. McKinnon was able to do what no other Chiefs running back has been able to do this season, which is make big plays. He had 5 different explosive plays of 14 yards or more. He simply has more speed and shake and bake than our other running backs. McKinnon was in on 51 of 65 plays, and every Chiefs fan should be petitioning Andy Reid to let McKinnon keep playing that sort of playing time. Travis Kelce also had a good game with 108 yards receiving on 5 receptions, including 67 yards after the catch. He is now tied for the most consecutive 100-yard receiving games in the postseason of all time with 4. And of course, he also had a touchdown pass. Wide receiver Demarcus Robinson had more receptions and yards than in any one of his regular season games this season. Although he does hold the ball so far away from his body that I think he thinks it's a dirty diaper. Mecole Hardman produced 48 yards receiving with 37 coming after contact, and he had 70 yards on punt returns, including a 48-yarder. So he played great on special teams. And the interior offensive line trio of Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith played very well. Left guard Joe Tooney did not lose a single rep or allow a single single pressure on 47 pass blocking snaps, and Humphrey was by far the best run blocker for either team in the game. Switching over to defense, the D had a fantastic first half where they only allowed 45 yards of offense on 26 plays with just 2 first downs and 0 points. They absolutely dominated in the first half. Backup defensive tackle Tershawn Wharton contributed a sack, 2 pass rush pressures, and a tackle for loss, and a deflected pass. Willie Gay only played 17 snaps for no good reason, but he was the Chiefs' best linebacker in the game. He had a QB hit, 2 pass stops, and a forced fumble. And linebacker Nick Bolton tied for the team's lead in tackles. He allowed only 4 reception yards on 22 coverage snaps. He had 2 pass stops and was a big factor in keeping Pittsburgh's star running back Najee Harris to only 29 yards on the ground. But of course, it wasn't a perfect game, so who struggled? Well, the offensive tackles actually had a very off night. Right tackle Andrew Wiley was holding on to defenders tighter than I hold on to the bar on a zip line, and when he wasn't holding, he was giving up pressures. Left tackle Orlando Brown really had an off night. He allowed 4 different pressures, which is way too many for him. He allowed a second quarter sack, and then on the very next play, he actually allowed a defender to come clean again at Mahomes. Should have been a sack, but Mahomes evaded the sack. To make matters worse for Brown then just kind of stood around and decided not to play the rest of the play. Corner Mike Hughes also had a rare off game for this season. He was on the wrong end of both of the 2 Steelers touchdown passes. On special teams, punter Tommy Townsend only averaged 34.5 yards a punt. Got to get those numbers up. And I got to mention the coaching decision to have Mecole Hardman hand the ball off. There was just no reason for that gimmick play, and the fumble ended in the Steelers' first touchdown of the day. But those are plenty of negatives. The Chiefs absolutely destroyed the Steelers, and it was a very positive game. With those positives and negatives in mind, let's turn over to a few insights that you might have missed in the game. One insight was the up and down play of some of our corners, which is kind of the epitome of their season. Corner L'Jarius Sneed was tied for the team lead in tackles and had an interception that was actually called back with a penalty. That's good. But he also dropped 2 interceptions and allowed 4 first downs. That's bad. Charvarius Ward had 3 pass stops and a deflected pass, but he also allowed 3 first downs, and he could have easily been called for at least 2 pass interference penalties, good and bad. Our corner play was this odd mix of good and bad on Sunday, and man, it has been all season long. Another insight is that the Chiefs' offense keeps finding creative short yardage conversions. There was a Kelsey touchdown pass to Pringle. There was a shovel pass to McKinnon. There was the touchdown pass to guard Nick Allegretti. Another insight is that for the second week in a row, the Chiefs are figuring out how to use receiver Mecole Hardman, focusing on getting him the ball on short throws. Now, his average depth of target was only 1/5 of 1 yard. Yeah, when he's targeted, it is right at the line of scrimmage. It's less than a yard downfield on average in this game, but he still ended with 48 yards. That's a great contribution. He has a specific skill set when he is used properly. Another insight that's very easy to miss is this. Now, last offseason, it was big news when the Chiefs signed former All-Pro offensive lineman Kyle Long, who had been out of football for a year. However, with Long hurt in the offseason and rookie Trey Smith emerging at right guard, it just made sense that Long did not see the field for the bulk of the season. However, he is now appearing not at guard, but at right tackle, backup right tackle on the depth chart, a position that he has played before. So Long is healthy, and he's listed at right tackle, and the current right tackle, Andrew Wiley, is really struggling. And yet, Long has yet to see a single snap all regular season or postseason. So the insight here is this. Something's up that we're not being told. Either Kyle Long is not actually healthy, or he just is not up for the task after taking a year away from football. Another insight is that the Chiefs' offensive players are just like the best at touchdown celebrations. Seriously, I don't know how a 6'6" man is a good dancer, but Kelsey just plain is. And I was cracking up when Tyreek Hill stole the pom-poms from the cheerleaders for his third quarter touchdown celebration. That was absolutely hysterical. So with the game in the rear view, let's talk Chiefs news. Wide receiver Josh Gordon was a healthy scratch Sunday night, and with how little he's been involved in the offense, that might mean that the experiment is over. In injury news, running back Darrell Williams had a toe injury. He did play, but only for a few snaps, And then after he had that fumble, he was basically pulled from the game. Also, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the other running back, was still out with his shoulder injury, and corner Rashad Fitton was out with a back injury, and we're going to need him back for the Bills next week for sure. But of course, the huge news of the week is that this upcoming Sunday, the Chiefs are going to be taking on the Bills in the second round of the playoffs at Arrowhead. And look, this game is going to be a real test, right? The Bills are coming off of absolutely embarrassing New England in the first round of the playoffs, and they defeated the Chiefs in week 5. But you know what? This isn't week 5. This is the playoffs, and this game is at Arrowhead. So yeah, it's going to be a heck of a game, but our Chiefs, they're going to rise to the occasion. Well, that's it for this week. Make sure to subscribe to the Red and Gold Report on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Thanks for watching, and go Chiefs!